road to justice. What's going on, Alibis? I'm Gigi. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. Fruit Loop. What you know?
Did you know, first of all, that I tried to hit record and it didn't hit record, so we missed the front intro on that.
Sorry about that,
Uh,
guys.
Sorry. Um, Elephants can hear with their feet.
What?
Yeah, so you would think with their big ears, and I'm sure they hear with their ears too, but it turns out that to detect distant noises, that they hear with their feet.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yep. That their feet are so sensitive they hear with their feet.
Well, we learn something new every day with you, girl.
It's interesting.
Yes, it is. Got to give a big congratulations to Miss Janine from Rexburg on the birth of her first grandbaby. I've gotten pictures. She's beautiful, giving me baby fever, but we ain't going to talk about that.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited for her. She's so excited. First grandbaby, just precious. And so we send all of our love to the new grandma. I don't know what she's going to be called, but anyway, so yeah, we're gonna jump back into um this timeline. And again, what I've done is sort of pulled stuff kind of throughout before we get back into that main timeline. And one thing today that I did is I kind of wanted to look into, and we've done this in the past, but I kind of wanted to look into some things about Tylee just away from this case. Like, we know Tylee mostly through the tragedy of her murder, and
Yep.
she did have a social media presence. Her Instagram was private. I've seen pictures that have been shared from it, and it'll break your heart because, birthdays and Mother's Day, just praising Lori, and she's the best mom ever, and I want to be just like her when I'm a mom, and sad stuff. But I found her YouTube, and she had some playlists. So I thought real quick we'll just talk about Tylee for a second and some of the things she likes. So she had a Driving with Tylee playlist. Some of the songs on there were Believer by Imagine Dragons, Glad You Came by The Wanted, and Unconditionally by Katy Perry. Then she had an uplifting playlist, is what it was titled. That had a lot of LDS videos that just had like life lessons and really positive stuff. She had a dance playlist, Unsteady by the Ex Ambassadors. And interestingly enough, To Build a Home by the Cinematic Orchestra is a beautiful song. And I don't know many people who know that song. I was surprised to see it on there. She had a sleep playlist, Let Me Love You by Mario and What Now by Rihanna. I don't care.
Rihanna.
Rihanna. Yeah, sorry. She had a chill playlist, which was Cashmere Cat by Adore and Ariana Grande. So, there was a lot more music, but, it kind of gives you a little glimpse into kind of what she liked to listen to. And so, what about the Pinterest boards?
So her first board was goals, and they were mostly fitness and motivation. She had one beach life. It had beach products, beach hair tips, exercise stuff, and how to get the best tan. She had a makeup board, photography with just a couple of pics, motivational quotes, life won't wait forever, whatever you want to do, do it. There's only so many tomorrows. Supernatural TV show board, hairstyles board, and hair and beauty, fitness. Tylee loved the show The Office, and she had a Twitter account but wasn't active since 2016. Her headline on her account was "Smile if you read this."
Yeah, I thought that was really, really sweet.
Yep. So Kay Woodcock told Court TV that the end of 2018 we saw Charles a lot, and he and JJ would come visit, or we met in different places, a little vacation, and it was unusual for that many visits in that close of a time frame, but we knew something was going on. So go, you want to pick up after that?
Yeah. So, just we're introducing people that come in a little bit later, and just essentially, this is how Lori met Jason Mao. This was from his interview with authorities July 27th, 2020, not too long after they found the kids. He was asked to start from the beginning and about how he met Lori and Chad. And he said that Nicole, a mutual friend of theirs, introduced him to Lori while they were at the temple. And Lori was familiar with the books that Jason had written. Lori asked Nicole to introduce them, and Jason said Lori was bubbly and happy. Jason then introduced Lori to Melanie Gibb, and of course, they became really close. So at that point, Melanie Gibb was putting together classes about food prep, first aid, and other preparedness classes that would hold those class and like she would hold those classes in her home where people would come and speak, and Jason would occasionally come to these classes to speak. If you remember yesterday in that episode, authorities really just said they didn't think he was super involved in any of this. He was just sort of associated through these different things. And Lori associated herself with the people who came to the classes at Melanie's. And he said this kind of morphed into an opportunity for Lori to start doing podcasts with him. So Jason taught a message called the Warrior Ethos, which is the 15 principles of truly heroic behavior. And he started doing public speaking after he was a police officer apparently, and he was injured, couldn't work again, and people wanted to know how he overcame such major issues, and people wanted to hear what he had to say, which is why he started that podcast. And he would have guests, and eventually Lori would start coming on. So Jason said that he learned of Chad through preparing a people. About 3 years prior, they both were speakers at a conference in Mesa, Arizona. And Jason said that he learned that Chad was an author and spoke about his near death experiences and connections with those on the other side of the veil. Chad was later contacted, and Jason asked him to come on and be a guest on the podcast.
So Nikki, which is Jason's wife, met Lori at Melanie's house for one of the group talks. Lori didn't like Nikki at all. This meeting wasn't for a podcast. Someone asked what you should do with a particular situation, and Nikki replied, "You should ask the Lord as the scriptures say, and he will show you the answer." According to Nikki, Lori looked at her with a disapproving look. After that event, Lori and even Melanie Gibb wouldn't talk to her anymore.
Oh, Lord.
Jason said Lori was a recurring guest, but not on every episode. Sometimes she was on the podcast by phone. The one, A Time to Warrior Up, was Jason's brand, and he was the primary host for the podcast. When asked what Lori would talk about, he said on one of the podcasts, Lori talked about having an abusive ex and an autistic son. He said most of the time was spent answering questions of the guest, and current topics would also be discussed. Jason said Chad was a guest one time, and it went so long that it was divided into 2 episodes. Chad talked about his 2 near-death experiences, and because he was closer to the spirit world, he could get messages about his life from his ancestors. Melanie Gibb would use her equipment, and the episodes were given to Preparing a People, who would edit and post on their website, which promoted Jason to their followers for free. Melanie Gibb would promote her books through Jason's podcast. After a while, Melanie and Lori were deciding which podcast would be sent to Preparing a People. In summer of 2019, Melanie and Lori were doing their own podcast under Jason's brand without getting Jason's approval. And when he found out, he ended the affiliation with Melanie and her podcast.
Yeah. So there was that big Doomsday special show that came on. And Gibbs said she didn't think Tally really liked Lori. She got the feeling Tally didn't want to be around her mom, and it was a strange relationship. And she said Tally did not like Chad. Obviously. Gibbs said that Tammy was suspicious of Chad and Lori and confronted Chad about it. If you remember, we had wondered for a very long time. And on that Doomsday episode, she confirmed it. Sorry, I had to hack my lung up. Tammy's sister was also on that special, and she said that Tammy did not mention anything about an affair when she visited them just shortly before she was murdered. Gibbs said that when Lori prayed to those on the other side of the veil, one in particular said at the end of 2019, nobody will care about their wedding that they had in Hawaii. The world is going to go through a disaster. And Gibb thinks that that's why they were really sloppy throughout all this, is because they thought the world was going to end.
Exactly.
So, just some random facts that kind of will make sense later. April Raymond, which was Lori's friend from Hawaii back when her and Charles moved there with Tylee and JJ and Colby, she told investigators on January 7th, 2020, that when Lori lived on the island, Charles, what? I'm sorry. She said Charles. I'm sorry. You got to take over. I got
I
like a
got it.
tickle in my
All right.
throat.
So April Raymond, Lori's friend from Hawaii, told investigators on January 7th, 2020, that when Lori lived on the island with Charles, she was a good mom, productive and helpful to everyone, and she would trust Lori with her kids. Gibb told investigators that AVAL was founded by someone who was into the last days and preparing for it. She said they had good information like gardening techniques and how to store food, current events. Then they got into dreams and visions, where they compiled a bunch of people's dreams and visions that they saw for the future. He asked if this was a real business with someone in charge, and she said yes, that it was brought by someone from another member, and he was in charge and got money from the fees to be a member, and she thought around 35 a year to be a member. I remember all that. You had to pay to be a member on that site. Yeah. Um, so the investigator talks about vibrations, and they get stronger when you go to the temple. You can teleport. The veil gets thinner. Uh, he asked what would have happened if Lori had her temple recommend taken away. And she said she wouldn't be able to go to the temple anymore. And Lori would have been sad about that because the temple was very important to her. Um, you're muted. I looked.
Yeah, I
You
got it now.
you got
So,
you good?
yeah, I'm good. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm all like topsy turvy tonight. Gibbs said Lori was pretty much going every single day before Chad, but it lessened some once he came into the picture, but it was still on her priority list. The investigator asked if in the time she's known Chad, does she know if he's been involved in any extramarital relationships? And she names somebody and it's bleeped out in that video. But the investigator said they did hear that too in some report. And she claimed to have had something with Chad, but they don't know that to be true. I'm kind of wondering if it, well, no, I'm not going to say any names. Um, September 15th, 2020, Alex Cox's ex-wife Debbie contacted Chandler authorities. They were married from 1992 to 1993. They were married pretty much right after Alex graduated high school. And they only lived together for 4 to 5 months, but kept in touch over the years after they divorced. The last contact she had with him was about 2 to 3 months after he was released from jail after attacking Joe Ryan. And when she would ask Alex about the events with Joe, he would say they were focused on getting custody of the kids. And she said Alex talked about, now this is, yeah, this is telling. She said Alex talked about wanting to bait Joe Ryan into a fight and kill him, claiming self defense. As a result of that statement, she said she never spoke to him again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now it's time for our sponsor. Our next partner has a product that is awesome. I started taking AG1 because I wanted to start focusing on getting on a healthy daily routine.
Yep. And the ingredients are top notch. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb.
So we have been advertising for Athletic Greens for the past couple of weeks. And another amazing thing about them is that for every purchase, they donate to organizations helping to get nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry here in the US. In 2020, AG1 donated over 1.2 million meals to kids. So when you purchase Athletic Greens, you're also making a difference in the lives of kids.
Yeah, and that's so awesome. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health.
To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/whattheworld. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/whattheworld to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
There we go. So back to talking about Alex Cox's ex-wife.
So
Surprise,
she
surprise.
said the family dynamics were crazy, which caused issues between her and Alex, and these things made her afraid of the family. She said there was inappropriate sexual touching between Alex and Lori, where they would simulate sex acts with, um, which was done in front of family members. He never acted that way with the other two sisters. Their parents would openly talk about their sex life in front of family, and the inappropriate talk and touch would happen every time they were with Alex's family. She said the family was too weird, and she realized she had made a mistake marrying Alex. She said Alex was very protective over Lori. He referred to her as hot and sexualized her. They lived in the same apartment complex, and Alex chased after her a lot.
Oh,
Sheesh. At
oh,
one point,
gross.
I know, right? At one point, she asked about sexual inappropriateness with Alex and Lori because at one point she saw Alex touching Lori's breast, which she said was acceptable in her family. All Alex thought she was weird for thinking it was weird, and they argued about it. When asked about Alex being protective with Lori, Debbie said Lori's first marriage was quick, and they went to Vegas. This was before Debbie and Alex married, but she said Alex talked about wanting to beat up her first husband several times. That's a
Dude.
pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
She said if anyone treated Lori in a way Alex didn't like, he would threaten to beat them up. She never saw him act on it. Alex was excommunicated while married to Debbie. He was baptized and excommunicated again. She said he was very opinionated in the faith but was sexually promiscuous. Alex told her he had a problem controlling his sex drive and would find it wherever he could.
Oh, obviously. So
So,
Alex said
just
what?
a question to our LDS listeners: can you be excommunicated twice?
Sounds like you
I don't know.
can.
I mean, he. It sounds like he was. I don't know. I didn't
He
know
might
that.
have had a third time's a charm at excommunication. We don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So Alex suddenly told her they were moving to Utah. And she found out that, get this, Alex had sex with a 15-year-old and her father was looking for Alex. This and the sexualization of Lori were a huge factor in their divorce. So moving on to an interview with Gibb on August 19th, 2020, an investigator asked Gibb to describe his dedication to Lori. And she said in the beginning, when they started talking about Joe, Alex was very protective of her. And he would describe Joe as a horrible person and how he felt the need to protect Lori. She remembers hearing he tased Joe, and it's in quote, in his nads, and something about the trunk. Alex didn't care if he went to jail for Lori, and she later understood his mindset about protecting Lori because Chad told him as they started getting into all this crazy doctrine that in the beginning Alex was a nobody and only had been on this earth once, but later they said he was only on earth for Lori and didn't need to come here because he was exalted. They told him that he was the angel that stopped Lemuel from killing Nephi, and Alex totally believed it and took that on as his identity. So the investigator asked her if she thought Alex bought into all that, and she said yes. When they moved to Rexburg, Lori had told him to pray about it, and he said he did and got a confirmation. She said the last time she saw him, she said, "This zombie thing, I'm not 100% sure on that." And Alex said, "100% believe it." She said Zulema said she was still getting confirmation about the zombie thing. So, some other little facts. Lori told her family she was getting married right out of high school to Nelson, and she met him in high school. And Janice said he was not her favorite person.
So Alex worked different jobs, including cleaning porta potties, and he was a truck driver. That would be the worst job ever.
Cleaning porta potties?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hats off to the people that do it because somebody's
Yeah.
got to,
Oh,
but
you're awesome if you do it, but
y'all the
oh,
MVPs.
yeah. Janice said they all love Charles. He was the best of her husbands. Janice says Charles and Alex were very close friends. Janice said Tylee had a tough exterior and a marshmallow heart. Uh, while they were dating, she told Charles about them being LDS and he joined the church. For 14 years, they seemed happy. Then she started talking about the new group. And
Oh
we
boy.
saw that where there was a change.
Yeah.
And there was issues early on too, but
Right, but not as
um,
radical, and that's
yeah,
something that, Charles said at some point that it had been going on for a few years, but just, at the very beginning of January of 2019, it was off the charts, out of control.
yeah, yeah. So Lori's brother Adam, he went on 2020. He said Alex was a loner without a lot of friends. When Lori would invite him over, he was always willing to go. He said Alex had the most talent of anyone in the family. He said if Alex had any ambition, he could be in Vegas making $1 million a year doing impersonations. And we did see that video. He was really good.
It was good. I still think that when Janice said she talked to JJ
Mhm.
October 1st, I swear I think it was Alex, and I'm gonna be curious to find at trial when you have these
If they
calls
point that
into
out.
the insurance company, is it somebody's trying to sound like Charles?
Yep. Yep. So he said Alex tried stand up, but it didn't work out. He didn't work on his craft. She told Adam she saw Jesus face to face in the temple and talked to him. Another time, she said she was turning into a translated being, saying she didn't have to eat, and if she was shot, the bullet would bounce off of her. Adam told her it wasn't true and it was nonsense. Lori said, "You think I'm crazy, don't you?" Adam said, "I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not normal, and this is not happening to you." From then on, she tried to cut ties with him. He was surprised. He told Janice Lori was talking crazy and they should do something, and Janice said she had never said any of that to her.
Yeah, they all ignored it. I mean, her family, her mom and them. So Adam told Janice he was worried about Lori and he didn't specify, but he said, "Don't you think Lori has some crazy beliefs?" And Janice said, "No, I talk to her all the time. She doesn't have crazy beliefs. She's taking care of JJ and living a normal life." He said she was shut down when when he told his family they needed to help her. He started thinking about the podcast and the book she's reading and saying she would talk to spirits from the other side. So Adam said Lori was telling Alex to read Chad's books. And since he was a truck driver at the time, he would listen to ebooks or podcasts kind of on all these subjects instead of listening to music. So April Raymond, Lori's friend from Kauai, said she would describe Lori as a super fan of Chad's before she met him. And so investigators kind of wanted a little bit of insider information about this zombie stuff. So in 2021, they're interviewing Gibb again, and Lori said she had a dream once where there was an earthquake in Utah and people fell into the earth. If they could get rid of all the zombies on earth, the zombies wouldn't be able to take over these dead bodies. So this is where the map come in. Lori would open a map and say, "Let's see how many zombies are in Arizona," and she would throw out a number. And then she would say a prayer, and then Chad would use his pendulum and tell her how many zombies she killed with her prayer. And whatever zombies were left would be dead by morning due to the prayer that Lori prayed. This is, anyways. Um, so also in August 19th of 2020, Melanie Gibb gave several interviews to police that are out there. She was asked, if you look at the hierarchy of the scores and vibrations, who would you put at the core, the center of this group? And she said Chad and Lori. They considered themselves just the head of that group. And she said Chad was so quiet about his life. In Chad's little circle with Lori, there's people she mentioned around the table, like Serena, Christina, Nicole, and they all kind of got kicked out of the group towards the beginning. And when asked why, Melanie said Serena was calling Chad too much, according to Lori. So they decided she was turning dark and needed to be out because they started getting suspicious. And Christina, especially because she would call Lori out on some stuff. Like she would say, Chad's married. So they said she was turning dark. And Melanie said something about, they said Christina wasn't 100% human. And she tries to remember the name for it. And it was some kind of a lizard. They were trying to say that Christina was some kind of a lizard. So, yeah, I mean, it's just all bonkers stuff.
Yeah. So is this a good place to stop?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because we're gonna get
Uh,
into some Julie Rose stuff and how Chag met her and how that all went south later on tomorrow's episode. But you guys have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.